Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Talk About It. And today I have a very good friend of mine, Josh, and we're going to be talking about being an introvert but in a position of leadership. So, yeah, first off the bat, something we have in common is we are introverts.
100%.
So this is very out of our comfort zone. So for people who don't know what being an introvert is, how would you describe that?
Being an introvert would be if I want to go to a party or if I'm going to hang out with a group of people, I'm going to get drained way quicker than anybody else would, or an extrovert would, right? An extrovert would go to a party and they would get filled up. They would leave the party ready to party again. An introvert would go into the party and before they even sit down and say hi to people, they're like, yeah, I want to go home. Because you're already drained way quicker than what an extrovert would.
I completely agree.
But then being alone, having time to myself, I'm ready to take on the entire day. While an extrovert's like, I am depressed, and I want somebody to talk to, you know, and they're crying.
I think it's definitely fine. Like you can spot an introvert. Usually, they're either in the corners of the room. They're having a great time, but they're just in the corners.
Right.
They like to observe, the people watchers. That's what I think.
Right.
More or less what we are, and we're having the best of times standing in the corner. And that's just
if you're an introvert, if you find a corner and you stay in your corner.
Yes.
If you don't move from that corner the whole party, you're an introvert.
That's like your area.
Right. If you're the one walking around the room, you're not the introvert.
That's very true. I completely agree. If you see an introvert in the corner, they're good. They're good. You know, maybe every now and then, like, hey, you need anything? They're probably going to be fine.
Right.
Yeah, we'll be good. So, tell us a little bit about your job.
Which part?
Let's talk about how you got into being in the creative department.
Okay.
And all of that side.
I was still a high school student, so I just knew I liked tech. I knew what I wanted to do. But then I was learning Photoshop at the time in high school, and Selena, my wife, I'll say, I don't know, you know? Selena was like, hey, we have a new creative pastor here at church. I wanted you to, meet him and everything. I was like, okay, cool. And they were about to start rebranding from one name to another. And he was like, cool, you want to help me out with this? I was like, I barely know anything about Photoshop, but sure, I'll help you out. So then we did some Photoshop stuff, and then he kept me in the back of his mind. And as time progressed, I was here serving for cafe and everything. But then I started involving myself more with creative. There were some transitions with video teams and everything, and I jumped on video. There was transition between a lot of different creative teams, and I kept filling in gaps. Until the point where I saw myself in youth creative video team, and then we hit COVID, and then they were like, hey, we need more people here. Are you available to hop on staff? I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And then it's been kind of like a roller coaster ride since then, and here we are now.
Wow, that's amazing. And then how did you go from serving to now becoming in a position of leadership, being in that creative leadership position?
I would say I said yes to pretty much anything that anybody ever asked of me. Hey, would you be down to film a video? Sure. Would you be down to edit a video? Sure. Would you be down to do a graphic? Of course. Hey, can you help out in this department? 100%. What do you need? And I went from serving coffee to helping lead a video team, at the same time learning how to film video fully. Then hop on the youth creative team, then hop on creative staff, to being one of the location directors, to then being the creative director. So then it kind of just escalated because I kept saying yeah to pretty much anything that they needed.
Wow. So saying yes to all these things and then having to learn through that process, did you feel that it was more difficult for you to either ask for help or ask to
100%.
Learn how to do a certain thing?
100%.
Yeah, because for me especially, when I'm more introverted, I'm like, I don't want to ask how to do it, but I know that I need to ask. So what would you recommend for people that are naturally introverted? How would they go about asking for help? I know it's a little bit uncomfortable to get them out of that, out of their comfort zone. So how did you get through that?
So I think the most unhealthy thing that I did, so to know what not to do, right? Mm-hmm. The most unhealthy thing I did was that I would spend hours on end on YouTube finding out the things that I didn't know. So at the time, it wasn't necessarily creativity, but it was some sort of production aspect. So I was learning audio, I was learning video, and I was learning lighting and all these different things. But I spent so many hours on it that I would look at the end of the day, it was 1 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't spend time with my friends, with my family, with anybody around me, my wife, forget anybody. Like, it was like straight work. So I took work home and I took work to work. So then there was no life-work balance. There was no, even if it's like a hobby, there's no hobby-life balance, right? So I would say to ask the people around you that have either already done it, know about it, or just casually do it. So it's like, for example, I can make a graphic and ask you and be like, hey, I know that you're a creative. What do you think of this? And you're like, well, those colors suck, right? But then in my head, I'm like, okay, she doesn't know how to fix the colors, but she knows that this doesn't look right.
Yeah.
Now I don't need to go and be like, okay, what colors do work together, and start spending 45 minutes on color theory on online. I would say ask the people around you, and then if there's somebody that was in the position before you that is around you, just asking them and being like, hey, what would you have done here?
Yeah.
You know, probably the easiest way, to be honest. Even if you're an introvert, it's super easy to be like, hey, just, you have like 2 minutes or whatever. It's like, more so than yes, like more so like than anything, they'll be like, yeah, for sure, I got you. What's up? And you'll be like, oh, you know, like I'm thinking about this graphic and I have this going on. What do you think of that? What would you change? What would you do? And then they'll give you their feedback or whatever, and then you just move from there. And then now you know for the next time, okay, this is what I'll do.
So being in your position of leadership and you overseeing a team, so now it's not just asking someone, but now 100%. You have to delegate to people certain tasks or things that they're doing right, or maybe things that they need a little bit of correction on. How do you now delegate when your natural instinct is to be internal, to kind of just let them do their own thing? How do you, I guess, maneuver that?
Well, I think for me, I'm almost like a process person. So in my head, I'm like, okay, cool. This is how we'll start it, this is how we'll do it, and then this is how we'll end it, and then this is what we'll do after the process, like how we'll organize and we'll do all that stuff. And then trying to get that and how to communicate that would be, okay, let me write everything down and let me see how I can communicate this. Because not everybody's going to think the same way that I do.
Yeah.
You know, I've had my wife tell me, she's like, yeah, the way they explain things might be a little bit difficult for some people. I was like, okay, I guess in my head, like, having everything scattered might help me, but not for everybody. So then I would write it down. I would tell them what to do. But the thing is where it's trusting that what you're doing, you're trusted to do it. So like, even if like I was given a position to lead people, it wasn't because, hey, you're the best at it. It just means that we entrust you with this. Mm-hmm. You know, you're capable of this. You're going to grow more in this position. So we would love for you to teach people that things that you've already learned, how people trusted you, how we've trusted you, and then giving that to the people under me. So, for example, it doesn't mean that I was the best person to be a creative director, but it means that they trusted me and they were equipping me to become a better leader through this position. So it's like, okay, cool. How do I lift people up and raise people's standards that they're like, wow, I don't think I'm ready for this, but he believes that I can, and he gave me everything that I need to do it. How do I execute this now? And then being available for those people because you're not doing it. So it's like, I'm not going to go up to them and be like, hey, this is what you have to do. Fix this, fix that, fix this. I'm going to let them have their mistakes. I'm going to let them do whatever they do. And then come back to them and be like, hey, I love that you did all of this. I just think that these couple things would probably be what you would do better. But overall, like, I'm, you know, incredibly, like, amazed of the things that you've done and how you're doing it, and I just love seeing what you do, and whether that be video, photo, or graphics and everything like that. So I would say if I'm touching a camera, if I'm touching something that I used to touch, I'm doing it wrong. So it's like if at any point, like, you're just, and this goes like beyond just ministry, right? This goes like you're a manager at a place or something. If you're doing what you used to do, then you're not letting your team be your team. You're trying to be the team and be the leader at the same time, and there's only one thing that you can do at the same time. So yeah, don't do it if you don't have to, type of thing.
That's a really good piece of advice. I think so many times we would rather just take on the task than let it be.
The ideal, if you want it done right, do it yourself, go straight out the window.
Yeah.
Because there's 100% going to be mistakes the same way that you made mistakes and the same way that you're going to currently make mistakes in the position you're in. Because 100%
Yeah.
the person that's over you is going to be like, you're a fool. Why did you do that way? It's like, well, I thought this was the outcome. And it's like, no, there's 9 different ways to do it better. But you learned, and they trusted you to learn from your mistake. But they trusted you to make a mistake and keep going. So it's the same thing that you would have to do for anybody under you.
So how have you handled expressing correction onto the people that either you see that need the correction, or maybe you feel like you can maybe guide them in a better direction? How have you, I guess the best way to describe it is, how have you learned to communicate that in a way that you feel is like clear for them, and it also
Right.
becomes a little bit more natural for you to speak up in that way?
So I guess the scenario would be like, let's say I tell you, hey, I need everything in a wide like format. Like I need something for a YouTube video. Like this is not, don't think stories, don't think Instagram. And then you come back and everything's portrait. So I can't do anything with fat black bars on the sides. I wouldn't go and be like, bro, you did this all wrong. That sucked. I told you this, this, and this. It would probably be more of like, hey, I loved everything that you did. You know, it was incredible. But how come you filmed it like portrait? What were you thinking? Like what was your idea with that? And then hear maybe what you thought. Either I communicated wrong, and then at least now I know, okay, maybe I said that wrong, and maybe now it was my fault from the jump. I never communicated. Maybe I thought I'd said it, but then I never even ended up saying, yeah, I needed it wide, you know, or it's that they just missed it completely. And then from there, it's going like, okay, you missed it completely. That's completely fine. We'll probably, work something to make something happen, and that's okay. But next time we would probably just want to go in this area just because it's easier, it's better, and it makes it overall just look more inviting when you're able to see the whole picture on the screen, and then lead from there. And it's a different situation in different areas, so it's like always bringing back that what they did, they didn't have to do necessarily. I mean, at least specifically for ministry, where it's like everybody under me is pretty much a volunteer, right? So then everybody that does is them volunteering their time, and they're giving their time. So I want them like be able to, I guess, steward their time right. And it's like, at least you're not just wasting your time, because even if you do something wrong, there's a chance that you'll never see that. So now you in the back of your mind, you're just like, well, I just spent 3 hours serving over here, filming something or doing something, and it never got to see the light of day. Why? Because you did it wrong. And what if I never told you did it wrong, or what you did wrong? So now you don't know what you did wrong. You never got to see it. And then you never want to serve there again because everything before it. So it's, okay, how do I let you know you did amazing, but the next time I know you could do better without telling you sucked?
Yeah.
So it's more so, hey, you did incredible, and next time let's go in this direction type of thing, and we'll go together. And if there's anything that I missed, let me know, and I'll definitely help you out. Where you're not again doing, but you're kind of just making sure that everybody does everything together more so than anything else. And it's not like at the end they're gonna look back and be like, well, he never told me anything, or I didn't know, and then they feel almost set aside or anything like that. So it's almost comes back to structure, where it's like I sometimes won't even have to correct if everything is laid out for them, and they're like, okay, cool, I don't see anything wrong type of thing. I don't know if that answers it.
It does. I think it does. I'm like going back to, I'm like, yeah, I think it does. I think it's good. All right, my next question would be, throughout all your years of going from serving and then stepping into all these teams and then becoming a leader, what is a piece of advice you either received or a piece of advice that you would give to people that are in your position?
The piece of advice that I heard that I feel like would probably be the best for me would be, the higher you go, the lower that you place yourself. So it's essentially that, yes, you're becoming a higher leader, but that means that you serve people more than serving hands-on, if that makes sense. So essentially, I'm not grabbing a camera. Like, my serving isn't just grabbing a camera now. My serving went from grabbing a camera to how my leaders are doing. Yeah. How are my leads doing leading the team? Because now everything falls where, okay, cool, you're the lead. That's great. And now you have, like, cameras and this and that, and that's everything. But now you're responsible for people. So now it's like, okay, cool, where you think that you're higher and higher and people are supposed to, like, look at you, And you're supposed to look at people now and make sure that the people that are under you are good and they're not drowning, they're not dying. Because you got to where you got to by a leader making sure that you were okay. You know, a leader making sure that you're growing and that you're feeling good and that you're feeling... And it's not like, oh my gosh, my dislikes are this and this. I dislike that you did this. And then you go and you fix it. It's more so like, hey, I'm just struggling right now and my family's not doing good. And you know, I'm fighting always with my mom or me and my wife are doing through this. And like, you know, I have a guy talking to me or whatever. And I'm like, well, cool. What's going on? You know, like why do the fights start? You know, and you start walking them through it. Maybe they even answer the question, the things themselves, and they feel almost more hopeful in what their life is going. And it's not you just fixing like, oh, you didn't like that graphic, I got you next time. I'll fix that graphic just for you. It's like, no, that's catering. And sometimes catering doesn't do anything for anybody because you're never going to solve everything for everyone. But it's making sure that people feel cared for, you know, and that they feel loved and that they feel like there's always more. There is hope. You challenge them, but you give them hope at the same time where it's not like, it's okay, little buddy. You can flow. We got you. I got you in my hands. It's a no. Like, okay, cool. I think that you can grow in this area, but for sure in this area, you're gonna have a lot more hope moving forward, and that at the end of the day, your team is gonna follow your example more than what you're gonna say. So it doesn't matter what you say as a leader. It doesn't matter. Like, it does matter. But more so than not, 30% of what you say is what they're going to pay attention to. 70% of it is going to be what you're doing. It's what you're doing at home. It's what you're doing with your friends. It's what you're doing on social media. It's what you're doing. It's what you're doing inside church and then how you're being outside of church. Because if I'm one way inside and then I'm one way outside, they're like, I can't trust this guy. This guy's leading me, but how am I supposed to trust him if he's being one way here and one way over there? Like, you're super mean here, you're super rude here, but you're super kind here. Even inside church, if I'm like kind with some people, but I'm rude with other people, it's like, okay, but why? Exactly. Why is he like that?
Yeah, it creates this like mistrust of being, I don't know which one is his real version.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like I can't be super excited with one group of people, and then, hey, no, it's cool. Yeah, we're chilling with another group of people. So I would say always consistency, and for lack of a better word, like follow up, making sure that your team is good, as well as you being consistent. That team will never go to you if you're not consistent. Because if I show them one face one day and another face another day, they'll never end up coming to me because they'll be like, I don't know, I'm gonna be walking on eggshells with you.
That's true.
So then those two tying in together being, if you're not consistent, they will come to you, and then if you want them to come to you, be consistent.
That's really good. That's really good because I think a lot of times like we want to put up this front. And you can't do that, especially with a team. Right. You have to be that raw version of yourself everywhere you go. And especially excluding being on a team, you just have to be upfront and authentic.
Right.
And speaking of teams, Josh is in charge of all things creative, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me just make sure I get this title right. All things creative, this video, the sound, editing, graphics, lighting, literally all things creative. So for anybody that would want to get into either to serve on your team or to get into things creative, I guess, where would they start? Because I'm creative, but like I can like dance creative. I know nothing about technology, like nothing. So if I'm like, hey Josh, I love what you do. I kind of want to tap into that. Where would you recommend like they start, or what area would you recommend like is easier for people to step into?
Photography, for sure. I would say that obviously the whole procedures, next steps, and everything, cool. Once you get past all of that, once you begin, I would say photography would be your best bet because, yes, you get trained in photography with all the technical, and you get, here are settings and here are everything. But what they teach you is, hey, here's how a photo should look. And for what I mean by that is that, let's say we're looking at this. I'm not going to take a picture of somebody facing this way with all of this behind me.
Gotcha.
I'm going to take a picture of somebody facing this way with all of this in front of me because you can see what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
As opposed to, okay, where is he facing? Because it looks like I'm leaving as opposed to being inviting and bringing you in, showing you what I'm having.
See, I would not think that at all.
There you have, right here, you have the 3/3. So you have a line here and you have like a line here. So our eyes would be right around this line, and then you have the table right around here. So then that way, okay, our eyes are at one line, and then we have this at another line. This way, basically, we have enough room above our heads where we're not cut off right here, and then we don't have like so much empty space under us or too much space above us.
I have been known to do that.
So that's the technical aspect. Once you start doing that, you do graphics, you're like, wait, there's too much space above this text. It looks a little weird. Let me bring it down.
That does make sense.
Wait, I have this text. You can have the text like going like this, but then what if you have it all the way on the left side going to the left, but then you're like, this looks weird. But because you took a picture and you knew that which way people have to be facing, you're like, okay, text might be similar enough. You do video and you're like, well, video is just photography like with movement.
Yeah.
And then you just add on movement to what you would have already done in photos. So it's just probably photography would be the best thing. And photography doesn't have to be on a camera, like physical like camera. It can be on your phone. And I teach people like, hey, just use your phone for this. And they're like, but it's not like a professional camera. And I'm like, you don't need a professional camera. You just need, if you know what you're looking for, you can just take a picture of it. You can do some minor editing after. You're good.
It's crazy. I mean, if you've met him and you've seen him do anything creative, you know, one, if I can explain to you, I can't explain to you how his brain works. I will be saying like, okay, imagine this. And he's already working on it. He's like, yeah, I know exactly what you're imagining. And by the time I finish my sentence, it's done. Like, it's the talent that you have. One, I hope you realize it because it's insane. Like, the gift this man has, crazy. But, yeah, I mean, we're introverts, so I think, yeah. Oh, that was a perfect ending right there.
There it is. That's our timer.
All right, well, we had a great time for all those introverts out there. You got this. If you want to stand in the corner, you're fine. You don't have to be that extroverted person. But we're going to see you next time on Talk About It. See you guys. That beeping really has like a timer.
Dude, in one of those talks, I was like this. I went, whoa.
No, in one of those, I started slouching back and I was like...
I was slouching the whole time.